Okay, so I want to do a video on everything that's happened lately because there's been a lot that has happened. Um, and it was basically, let me see, it's been a few months, so it's been kind of a tough few months. It's actually been a really fucking tough few months. But I was basically hospitalized. I basically had a mental breakdown. Um, there's a lot that's been going on, and especially because especially seems like still people quite aren't sure what's happening, and I'm still trying to figure it out. My brain fog is still it's getting better, but it's still I still need some things that will help me out. Um, uh, there was a lot of contributing factors to the mental breakdown, basically, and I don't want to go too much into it because it was kind of personal. But essentially, I took some cat's claw, and it basically flared up a lot of my symptoms. And then I was basically bedbound, and so that was kind of a little bit traumatic dealing with that. And then it just things just kind of spiraled out of control. Um, and then basically jumped down a well because I was so out of it. But it was also some of the things I was dealing with, like environmental, and also like the environment I'm in. But also, it doesn't really help that uh, I did work the past few places that I worked, even though it's been a few years, were pretty toxic and pretty hostile. Um, to the point where I had to quit both of them. I don't think that was really helpful as well because I think it's contributed and it's almost basically created PTSD. Um, but anyways, uh, at least as far as my chronic fatigue or chronic fatigue syndrome, it's never been officially diagnosed. But being that I have a lot of the symptoms, um, and looking back, I've actually had a lot of the symptoms when I was younger um, as well as autistic tendencies. I tend to think it's a combination of high functioning autism, but also chronic fatigue syndrome. Um, I think I've been lucky in that I'm pretty smart and I can figure out a lot of this stuff on my own. But I've been to a lot of doctors, and a lot of them don't really know how to handle me or figure me out. Luckily, I know a lot of things like supplements and natural remedies and other stuff that help me out. Because I think it's often misunderstood, and I also want to do more on methylation and probably workplace harassment. I'm also working on a few other things. I'm mostly working on the business. I don't know if I'm going to stream as much. I'm going to try and get back into it, but it's just my brain fog is bad enough that I can't really do anything. I have switched to more of a paleo or modified paleo diet, depending on how I feel. The only problem with that is that it does create it does create a lot of ammonia, and it's a lot of glutamate, which I think are two problem areas that I have, which also contribute to my brain fog. And this is more methylation, and it's kind of complex biochemistry stuff that probably not everyone is going to understand. Um, Aside from that, also my bedroom and setup has kind of changed, so you can see more of my bedroom now. You can probably see I think the X-Men. There's Cyclops and there's Thor. There's the Chris Angel poster right behind me. Aside from that, I may in the future get or try to study or try to become a naturopath, but I really don't know because I still just want to focus on my health. It's always been a struggle, especially throughout my 20s, because when I was working minimum wage, and I could barely afford any of the supplements and other stuff, and it was really a struggle. It's getting better now, and that I have my own business, and that I can getting SSI soon and a few other things, and I know a few other ways to get money. But it's always been a struggle, especially for me. If I want to lose weight, it's going to be almost like an epic struggle, and I'm going to need a lot of medications. Um, the thing is, a lot of people don't seem to understand that it's kind of, at least autism is more understood, but chronic fatigue syndrome really isn't. They think there's a lot of people, and I don't know why, where they get this kind of idea, or information from, that they can that there's like a test for it, or that there's a certain way of diagnosing it or treating it. And a lot of people don't seem to realize that a lot of doctors don't know how to diagnose and or treat this, because I've been to a lot and they've put me on stuff or tried to put me on stuff that really hasn't helped, like cholesterol medication. And I think some doctors haven't even helped at all, and I've been really frustrated because there's been a few medications that I've been trying to get for literally years. um, Luckily I'm in an area that has more naturopaths and more natural, a lot of more alternative stuff, which they seem to help a lot more. But it's still a struggle because a lot of the stuff is out of pocket and you can't pay for it. For a while I thought I maybe had Lyme disease, but I think that's kind of, uh, I still eventually do want to get tested for it, but I'm likely going to try and get more viral testing, but also get some antivirals. I think that's especially why with cat's claw, even though it flared up my symptoms, when I did sleep, it felt like it. I felt better afterwards, although it did contribute to my mental breakdown. Um, Aside from that, I was in a hospital program for about a week or so, and then I was in observation for about a week or so in the mental ward. I think part of the problem is they kind of misdiagnosed some of my symptoms as some psychiatric things, because really I don't think, they may be psychiatrists and psychologists and doctors, but when it comes to chronic fatigue syndrome, a lot of doctors, even at hospitals and stuff, don't really know how to treat this or don't know how to fix it. Um, because they labeled me or mislabeled me as a few things, and I've already recovered some. I think I've already actually lost a little bit of weight and gained some muscle. Although my diet it's really tricky because I have to basically tweak it and uh, get kind of a diet to where it actually helps me out and it's not too much of a hassle. The problem also is that a lot of time I'm out of it. Actually, most of the time. uh, so trying to find a diet that will kind of like a paleo diet that kind of helps me out and isn't too much of a hassle. Um, so but I've had to cut out a lot of dairy, soy, and gluten, which I pretty much have in the past, except there was a few times I messed up and slipped up. Usually it's when I'm stressed or when I'm something else is happening. What else? I'm also rebranding the whole YouTube and Twitch to more Chronic Fun Syndrome, just because that kind of sounds better than CFS Lifestyle, and that kind of, I don't know, I never was really a big fan of that. But hopefully I'll be able to do more videos and more Twitch streaming in the future. I don't really know when. I'm trying to get hold of some medications and also wait for some SSI benefits and a few other things. It's really tough in that I'm still dealing with some ignorance and other stuff. But I used to think that mental breakdowns and stuff were kind of a bad thing. I kind of avoided them because I have been through quite a bit in my 20s. I've had panic attacks, I've had anxiety attacks, other stuff like that. But I actually think it was actually kind of good, and that I was going to have one. If it wasn't going to happen then, it was probably going to happen sometime later. There was actually some videos I watched on it. It said sometimes it kind of gives you more clarity and other stuff. Although the way that I went about it was kind of a really bad one, I think it did help kind of clarify some things and kind of help me out. But aside from that, I'm basically just working on my business, trying to focus focus on my health some. There's a lot of things to consider, especially I try not to think about it too much. But there has been a lot of different supplements and different things I've tried in the past that have helped. There's rarely been a time where I've tried something and it hasn't really helped. The only time that I think the worst thing was cat's claw, and that actually kind of sort of showed that I likely have some underlying retrovirus or viral infection. But when I think about sort of my health history and also throughout the years, even when I was younger, I think I've in some way or another kind of dealt with this all my life, because I remember even when I was younger and in high school, being worn out and tired a lot, but also being moody. Um, and so they would label it as either autistic or a depression or something else. I'm not a big fan of labels though, because I think um, I don't know. I think it's a lot more than that. I think they tried to label it more as depression when there's actually a lot more going on. Um, it's pretty complex, though. I do know that from my research and even my genetic results, which I'm going to get reanalyzed soon, is that I'm low in three neurotransmitters: norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin, which I think contributes a lot to my symptoms. But I also need to get my methylation balanced and kind of working. But also I need to try and see, because I have in the past chelated some metals that gone through detox treatments, but also tried like acupuncture, and try and also do some natural uh, pain relievers and stuff as well too, because I am in some pain as well too. I'm tending to get more migraines, headaches often as well too. I'm also doing weight training more often. I do high intensity weight training for a number of reasons, and I always have, but I only do about probably once or so a week. I can't really do it too often, especially how my body reacts to it, but I do think it's helped gain me muscle, but also done walking. Um, I don't think cardio, I've never been a big fan of cardio, but I think cardio especially wears me out. I have done some in the past when I've felt better at sprinting, which I think helps with, um, that's more for physical conditioning and that's more for sports stuff. Um, but I think like generally like sprinting, walking, and like weight training are kind of three of the best exercise things you can do, because I think especially in short bursts it helps a lot more. Um, but there's a lot of things to consider. There's also mitochondrial dysfunction. There's also what else is there? There's a lot to consider, uh, especially because I have several methylation defects that contribute to this. I have uh, probably viral stuff as well too. I have a bunch of other stuff. So there's a lot of stuff to consider, especially a lot of inflammation in my body. I can actually feel it sometimes because I get easily overheated and then easily tired, and then a lot in pain sometimes as well too. Aside from that, I'm trying to clean out my room some, or clean out my room and try and avoid toxins as well too, such as mold and dust and other stuff, which I think also contribute to it. Um, if you look into autism and what they're all sensitive to, and generally it's environmental toxins, mold, other stuff like that. Um, Let me see. Aside from that, you can probably tell that my brain fog is still kind of not in the best place. And I think that's more due to low dopamine, which I'm hoping some modafinil and some other things will help, because that's generally helped in the past. I do take, I have tried methylene blue as a natural nootropic. The other thing I have to work on is also trying to lower estrogen and raise testosterone, especially because I kind of have a big um, so this it's pretty complex, especially my health, because it's kind of worsened over time. um, it's hard to kind of explain this because I think a lot of people just think that I'm kind of apathetic, or what is that, lazy or something like that, when I actually work on it pretty quite a bit, and I do quite a bit to improve my health, but it really costs a lot of money. Uh, and most people that I've seen that, fuck, I can't even think straight. And most people that I know that have kind of recovered from this, it's taken quite a bit of time and it's taken quite a bit of effort. Um, I think I've wiped out most of the stuff. If I don't know if I really have any kind of gut issues going on, although I do still have some. But I mean, like yeast or bacterial overgrowth, I may have some kind of SIBO or something. But I've in the past used a lot of natural antibiotics, so I don't think that's really an issue, especially with my diet, especially because I've cut out a lot of sugar and not really too much carbs or anything like you know, just like eating fruits or like drinking fruit juice. Although I do that some because it kind of helps filters my body, kind of cleanses my system. Uh, Aside from that, I don't think there's really much else. Um, uh, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But I'll probably I won't be streaming and making videos as much. But once I'll occasionally post video updates and other stuff like this. Um, but a lot of it, but probably I'm going to spend a lot more time on research, but also writing. I'm also going to do some more writing. I want to do some stuff on some of the snips I have and some of my thoughts at least, um, and what has helped me. Because I have written about this stuff in the past about how lowering ammonia, raising nitric oxide, and other stuff. Although writing kind of suffers from brain fog and other issues. But yeah, I think that's probably about it. There's not really much else going on. But I'll probably post another video probably in a few months or so, depending on how I'm feeling and how things are going. And I'll try and stream. I'm trying to stream more often. I know my Steam group has grown quite a bit. And see what kind of video and play some games. I have been playing some video games, but not as much as I used to. But yeah, aside from that, I'll see you guys later.